admissed these insecurities and emotions, you needed Jungkook to talk to you. But he, being himself, returned back to his tendency to work. He immersed himself more into his work, while all he wanted was a support and conversation. During this time, one of your previous semester results got published. You got marks lesser than you expected. One problem after another. You felt like sinking into a deep pit with no one to help you. You no longer thought that Jungkook cared about your feelings and didn't want to bother him with your emotional drama. But during these days, there was one person who gave you the motivation. He was slowly filling up the voids that Jungkook had created unknowingly. He gave you the prep talks like Jungkook used to give you. You spent time online so that you could vent out your emotions. In the next 2 months, you grew closer to Juju and nothing much changed between you and Jungkook. He would come visit you like usual. You both would spend time talking and he would leave. And you no longer cared at this point. In this time, he did propose a few dates, which you refused due to your exams. Without your knowledge, you were creating situations that you did not want to end up in. Even after Jungkook's warning, you befriended Juju's friends and started going out more often with them. You felt those were the type of people who you clicked with. More open-minded, talkative, and funny. This was so unlike the serious nature you were tied while being with Jungkook. And this was the first time you started openly lying to Jungkook when he asked where you were. From the fear that he might get angry again, you decided to keep your activities more secretive. It was another day of Ryan hanging out with Juju and his friends. Unlike usual hangouts, which were in cafe and gaming center, this was in a bar. The friends had booked a private room for all of them to hang out. The dim lights and the fancy music kept on playing as the friends kept rotating the bottle on the center table while a bunch of beverages were kept filled in tiny glass tumblers. Alright, Lyson, truth or dare? Asked one of the girls in the group. Truth, he shouted under the influence of drink, while the rest of them laughed. Tell us the name of your crush, she said, while Lyson thought for a minute. I will take a shot, he said as he picked up the glass and poured down the drink into his mouth. All he wanted to do was take a shot. He won't play the game properly, a guy in raven hair remarked while Lyson just grinned. The bottle spun in its place once again, landing on Ryan this time. Truth or dare? The one to give the challenge questioned. She thought for a minute. She had taken truth last time, and this time she shouted, a dare. The person sitting opposite smirked slightly before giving the dare. I dare you to spend 15 minutes in a room with Juju. Ryan was drunk at this point and grinned at the dare. Now that she had started taking beverages, common sense was out of the chat. One mistake follows another, and so things that happens between a woman and a man who are not in the right state happened. It had been only days after the incident, and Ryan felt more attached to Juju, which was not surprising. They started spending more casual time together, but they never called their relationship anything, just casual. Jungkook felt completely out of the scene from Ryan's life. He wanted things to be normal and decided to finally give it a talk. Though he felt like he was late, but he had the strong feeling that their relationship will go back to the normal state if he just tried a little. With the help of some Google search and suggestion of colleagues, he decided to be more romantic, the way a woman wants men to be. He started texting Ryan more often and started sending cringe romantic messages. But to his misery, she not only replied coldly to his text but also hung up their calls very quickly, giving him excuses. He felt that physical presence might help, but whenever he went to her house, she would either be unavailable or be busy with stuffs. Things felt like they were going out of his hands now. But how much of water had drained from the pot became visible and obvious to him when he finally saw Wayan and his brother together. Coming back from his office to get some coffee and cakes, he came across a cafe. His eyes instantly recognized the couple who sat across the table, giggling and smiling. The male had his mouth continuously talking, to which she kept laughing. The flashback of watching the two of them after the skating day came to his memory once again. His heart skipped a beat when the male, his so-called brother, placed his hands on his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend's hand and placed a kiss on what seemed like lips. "Push him, Wayan," he prayed, as he stood there waiting for her to reject the advances. How he wished if Wayan just slapped that man sitting opposite to her so that he could interfere and take his girlfriend from Juju. But no, Wayan enjoyed the advances. Jungkook could clearly see her kissing the man back. Anger rushed through his vein. It was now clear that nothing can go back to how it was once. But maybe a last try was worth it, he thought, heading to her apartment. Wayan walked back to her apartment after the date. She climbed up the stairs to the floor to her apartment, but to her surprise, Jungkook was standing there at the door. Ignoring the tiny nervousness she felt intuitively, she walked towards him with a smile plastered on his face. He was silently waiting for her to reach the door. "Jungkook, what happened? Why are you standing here instead of getting inside?" I forgot the password," he lied. "But it's still your birthday. I didn't change it." She unlocked the door and entered while she saw him hesitating to get inside. Jungkook's POV. "I entered the apartment to which I kept visiting for the last 3 years. A sudden wave of uneasiness and unfamiliarity passed by me. The rooms no longer felt the same. I sat on the couch where we used to hang out some days. The cushions felt a little hard for me to sit. Maybe it was all these emotions that made me feel this way." "You went out?" "Yeah, just to meet some friends. It's our last year in the university, you know." "Yeah. Did you have fun with them?" "Yeah, Jungkook." Wayan paused for a second. She could notice how different was he behaving with her. "Are you feeling okay?" she inquired, concerned. "Just a little tired." "Lots of work?" "Yeah, some expected and some recent unexpected burdens." "You should take breaks, you know." "I have taken enough breaks and maybe I'll have to take some more now." Wayan really felt a lot of emotion from the words he was using. She felt like he was deliberately making sentences to provoke things, but she stayed silent. "Wayan, I was thinking I should stay here for a few days with you." "Why?" she instantly asked him. "Since it is your exams, I thought it would be better if I stay here with you." "But I have to study." "I won't disturb you, have I ever?" "No, but look, we stopped talking for weeks. No calls, no texts. I know you are busy. If I stay here, it will be a good way to stay in each other's vicinity. I will do the chores here so that you can study properly." He put things out to her to see her reactions. "I don't think we should live under the same roof." "Why not?" "We are not married. I'm not comfortable." "We've been dating for the last 3 years, Wayan, and still you are afraid of sharing the same house with me? There are people who have just known each other for minutes or days and share a bed." He walked around in the kitchen and living area while pushing out each word that triggered her. "Stop talking nonsense, Jungkook. I will have my friends over for studies and it might get a bit noisy for you." "Oh, friends? Tina and David and all? I hope they won't mind my presence. They know me so well." He shook his head, smiling at her. His innocent smile looked like an evil smirk to her this time. It was not him. "Jungkook, listen. You are not going to stay here. You tell me a stronger reason why I can't live here and I will change my decision." "Because you can't. And Don't you understand that? She bursted. He stood there staring at her with no emotions. He looked at her body postures. She was at the verge of bursting into tears and reveal everything. Sweat dripping down her forehead and nails digging into her hands and hyperactive eye movements. He was observing everything like a detective who just needed the criminal's final confession. She stormed away into her room to calm herself down. Resting the head on her palms, she closed her eyes tightly. I was almost about to reveal everything, but he's acting like he knows something. Her mind started talking. What if he knows? What is going to happen? Maximum would be a breakup. And isn't that what I want so that I can date Juju openly? She took deep breaths to calm herself. With a beating heart, she stood up again and looked into the mirror. She wiped her sweat. Maybe it was time that she talked to Jungkook and end it here so that she could move on with Juju and live a life full of surprises, adventure, and romance. She walked into the living room to see Jungkook sitting on the couch waiting for her. His eyes bore into hers, making her gulp. We need to talk. Talk, he commanded. And him. All she was in a relationship was being selfish, and it was getting toxic for Jungkook to stay in this any longer. After a few weeks, Ryan felt weird sensations in her body. It was very unusual for her to be suddenly starting to throwing up and missing her periods. Was it going to turn into a nightmare for Ryan? Since she wanted to be sure of what to do. She took a test which came out positive. She didn't think twice and took her bag and headed to Juju's family house. She knocked on the door impatiently as a woman in her 40s opened the door. She recognized her as Juju and Jungkook's mother. "How may I help you?" she asked politely. "Can I meet Juju? Is he here?" Wyan asked in a nervous tone, trying to suppress all the emotion she was facing. "Are you alright?" Jungkook's mother inquired in concern while Wyan just nodded a yes. She right away called Juju. As he came at the door, his mother left the both of them to give them privacy. "Hey, Wyan, what brings you here? I heard about you and Jungkook. So sorry about that guy. He left for Japan after breakup. What a jerk." He left. She processed the information in pain. But his absence was least of her concern right now. There were more things for her to handle. "I have something to tell you." "Go ahead." He scratched his head, waiting for her to finish up. "I'm pregnant." "Oh, congrats!" he exclaimed. "What?" "I'm pregnant with your child," she repeated, this time with a stronger tone. He looked at her for a second, blankly. The words sunk into his head properly. As soon as they did, he quickly looked around and, in panic, dragged her to the garden, away from the door. "Are you sure?" "I am very sure. I took a test," she assured. A sudden calm clouded his face. "About it," he calmly said, with the same uninterested tone as earlier. "What do you mean about it? It is your child." "Yeah, and I don't want it. I have my whole life ahead of me, and I don't want to settle down and ruin my life." "Ruin your life? What about mine, which you have ruined?" "That's why I suggested you to abort it. Get rid of it and enjoy the life, Wyan. The club and booze is open. Anything like this can happen. Don't take it to your heart." He laughed while patting your shoulder. "What a jerk you are! You did all this and now you say these words." "I did all this? Wyan, you were involved in this too as an adult as much as I was. I'm telling you, Wyan, in France this is so common, man. No woman allows hurdles like this to get into their way. Chill, bro. Get rid of this nuisance and be free bird you always wanted to be." "I won't do such a deed." "Your choice." He shrugged his shoulder with a smirk. "Don't come to me to take responsibilities." He walked back to his house like nothing happened. His mother, who overheard some of the conversation, came to him. "Who said that I will leave you like this? I will show you, Juju," Wyan whispered as his figure walked back and entered the house. "Who was she?" "A friend," he replied. "Was she pregnant? Is she married?" she inquired. "Did you hear, Mom?" "Some of it. What happened?" "I don't know, Mom. She got pregnant at some party. What can I do about it?" he replied with no concern or emotion. It was as though it was so easy for him. Lying was so easy for him. He opened his laptop and started gaming as nothing happened. Girls these days. His mother, who did not know that her son was behind this, had this one sentence to say which represented her idea about women like Wyan. "I'm extremely sorry, but I cannot help you with this," he said sternly, while the female voice on the other end repeated words of request. "No, I am very sure that it is not my place to help," he repeated and hung up the call. The man in the office room sighed once again, slightly sweating in the air-conditioned room. He loosened his tie with one hand and leaned onto the chair. It has been 3 years since everything happened in his life. He ran away from everything. He ran away from his feelings. He wanted to find himself. After his breakup with Wyan, Jungkook moved to Japan. He indulged in work and education. He was not a person who thought of revenge and giving others pain, but in his life, all people gave him was pain. Now, after 3 years, he was a successful entrepreneur. In under a week's duration, he got into a Japanese branch of his company and started working there. Jungkook's point of view. I just hung up the call with my mother. It had been 3 years that she has been requesting me to help them, but I kept on refusing. YN had filed a case against Juju charges and for denying the fatherhood and maternity benefit. From the progress of the case, it seems like it's in YN's favor. Juju might be facing a minimum of 5 years of imprisonment and a compensation, along with the need to pay YN the benefits. I am not happy how life turned out. But in this, everybody did their part by themselves. YN cheated on me with her complete awareness, as she did that not once but many times. Juju used her and other girls with his complete awareness. His actions were imposed on women with and without their awareness. My mother defends her son, though she now knows that he is wrong and was always wrong. I denied her to help my own brother being aware of the consequences of my action. But I couldn't have supported a man who did wrong to many girls, even if he was my own blood. And it is also not my place to deny justice to a woman, not just because she was my first love, but also because she has suffered enough as a girl in the society and also as a daughter and a mother. She should not suffer anymore. While going through all these emotions, I heard a knock at the door. Come in. A woman in her 20s entered the cabin with a few files in her hand. She placed the files on the right-hand corner of his desk neatly. Mr. Jeon, these are the plans Nakamura made on our next project in Akita. I will look into them, Naruka. Jungkook simply replied, waiting for her to leave. She did not leave, but waited for a chance to say something to him. Do you have something else to say, Miss Naruka? Jungkook asked, while his eyes focused on the files. Yes, sir. Would you like to have some coffee after the afternoon meeting? She asked with her sweet voice. Note to make the coffee little less creamy and reduce the percentage of sugar from 2 to 1. Place it on my table. He replied. Disappointed by his reply, she nodded and walked out of the cabin. I knew what she meant when she asked for coffee, but in my life, at this point, I am left with nothing but trauma of being in one relationship. Trusting the partner was important, and that was something that I could not do with this mindset. In the story, no one is a villain and no one is innocent. Their life took turns with each decisions they made when life kept unfolding itself.